Support for Radio Friends comes from IT Como, offering computer and IT services for small businesses and residential clients. IT Como can set up remote work-at-home solutions and data security and backup systems and upgrade your company email to more modern platforms. IT Como can also help you get the most from your technology at home. Learn more at itcomo.com. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Friday, January the 6th. We come to the end of the first full week of 2023, and I have my friend Gary Wunder with us from the National Federation of the Blind. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning.
And Gary, good morning, and welcome to Radio Friends and Happy New Year 2023.
I'm still learning to write 2023. Thank goodness for a backspace key, right?
Right. Gary Wunder, we've had you on this program many times. Today you wanted to talk about something to do with the cane for the blind?
Well, we have a young group called the Cane Drivers Group.
And what is that?
It's a group of kids that are mostly high schoolers. We have some as young as 11 and some as old as 19, but mostly high schoolers. And we're trying to teach them skills that are going to let them be successful in college and then in the work life.
And how are you doing that?
Well, a few weeks ago, we brought them to Columbia and we rented an Airbnb. And we had them for the weekend, and they were amazed because the only staff who were there were blind staff. And this really freaked them out because they, of course, have been supervised most of the time by people who can see. And they really had questions about, can blind people manage to conduct a program? So one of the things we did in this program was that we had them cook. We let them go to the Columbia Mall and independently shop. We had them come back, get the presents that they had purchased, wrap those presents, and then cook cookies to kind of clip off the weekend.
Yeah, and how did it go?
Oh, it really wonderfully well. We got back from one of these adventures, and one of the kids said, "I can't wait to tell my parents what you did." And we thought, oh my goodness, what does this mean? What did we do wrong? And he said, this is the first time I've ever been around blind people who actually ran things. And this tells me that I can run things. So we meet with the parents, and they're absolutely amazed. We say, your son did wonderfully. He did? Yeah. He fixed breakfast. He scrambled eggs for 17 people. He scrambled eggs for 17 people. I've never seen him do that before. What these folks liked was that for the first time, they got around people who said, we believe you can do it. We don't believe you're going to have gotten these skills by watching other people, so we're going to show you how to do it. How do you crack an egg? How do you scramble it? What do you do to beat it up? What do you do to pour it in the skillet? How do you figure out when it's getting close to done?
And see, these are things that sighted people take for granted. But if you can't see, if you are blind, it has to all be worked out in a different way.
The learning has to be active. It can't be passive. You may hear somebody say something, and you may know that an egg gets cracked, but exactly how you crack that egg, you've got to do it. Or you've got to feel somebody do it, or most likely you've got to do it yourself. That's really the way that it works. Same thing with wrapping presents. Lots of blind people get wrapped presents, and we know how to tear the wrapping off and say, yeah, this is ours. But when it comes to wrapping a present, where do you put the package on that piece of wrapping? How big does that piece of wrapping have to be? How do you fold those corners? How do you do that tape?
And how do you cut it?
Exactly.
How do you know what size to cut it? Those are all things that we just take for granted being able to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We even baking cookies, they were amazed that they could mix up the cookie dough and that they could apportion the cookies out on the cookie sheet.
Well, okay, how does a blind person do the measuring? How do you measure a cup of sugar or 2 cups of flour?
Well, first of all, we label the cups so that on the handles there's usually a piece of Dymo tape that says 1 cup, 1/2 cup, 1/3 cup, etc. And then, of course, we teach people how to scoop, and we teach people how to take the knife and hold the cup in one hand and the knife in the other,
So
and
that you level it off.
and then how to get it in the bowl. And lots of times these kids say, you know, when we try to do this at home, somebody says, let us do it for you. You know, you're going to spill, you're going to make a mess. We say, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But the great thing is the guy who can make a mess can also clean up a mess.
Exactly.
And so we show how that's done.
But now, how do you operate as a blind person around a hot stove or a hot oven?
Pot holders, oven mitts. We just take the proper amount of care that you would normally take and make sure that our hands are well protected. It's really quite a neat thing to be able to reach into a 350-degree thing and pull out a hot cookie sheet and realize that you're going to be okay.
Yeah, and that you did it.
Yeah.
So how many blind kids were you working with?
We had 13 blind kids and 4 staff.
Okay. When they came away with more confidence in themselves, did they?
Oh, absolutely, they did. They said, you know, if these clowns can do it, we can probably grow up and do it too. It was
All right.
wonderful.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you were sharing that with us. Anything else that you wanted to mention?
I just wanted to tell you that these blind kids are going to grow up and they're going to be blind parents. And one of the things that they will unfortunately run into is the idea that because they're blind, they may not be good parents. We just recently defended a gentleman in Mexico who was taking care of his kids, but in a lawsuit, his ex-wife wanted to use his blindness against him, saying he couldn't do this. He had the job, he had the parental care, but he had to go to court to defend his right to be a blind parent.
Did he win?
He did win. Luckily, he won because in 2011 we got a bill passed that said that blindness in and of itself will not be considered a disability in terms of raising children. So this work that we do with the legislature very often pays off, even though it may be a decade in the coming.
Right.
So
I understand that. Anything else? About a minute here.
We just got a bill passed through the legislature called the Blind Students' Right to Independence Through Education and Training and Education. The cool thing about the bill was not only what the bill does, and we can talk about that sometime, but we got it passed through a divided legislature that said that it wasn't going to pass much of anything. And we were able to show that some bills are still bipartisan, and that by working with the education system and not considering them and us, one being enemy, one being ally, we could actually get things done. We got together and we did this, and we've never had a closer working relationship with educators. So
I tell you, that is good news when you say that, not thinking of them and us, but that we're all one group of people, and we should all have the same goal in mind.
Talking to one another rather than over or around one another through
Yes.
somebody else. It's beautiful.
Gary, thank you so much for coming by. Gary Wunder, National Federation for the Blind. If people want more information, how can they get in touch with you?
Call at 874-1774 or write to me at gwunder@earthlink.net.
Okay. And that phone number again is 874.
1774.
Got it, Gary. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
If you'd like to hear or see something, drop me an email, pepperp@missouri.edu. Bye-bye.